Photoshop Project 3 Menu Image Correction. This is Stage 1, Retouching Damaged Images. This is where we get into the basics of Photoshop. Color correction, correcting for contrast, correcting for incorrect exposure, and retouching damaged images. Very often when you have an old photo, there will have some type of damage done to it. The color may have shifted, or it's become scratched, it's been creased, or something is torn. Photoshop is at its best when it's making corrections to these type of items. We're going to begin with the image called Roseman's. You should have downloaded and expanded the folder menu from your student files and open up the Roseman's JPEG. As you can see, there are a number of issues. We have a big scratch over here. We have another scratch there. There's a corner torn off here, and the picture at one time had been folded. We are going to clean those items up. We are also going to clean up the grain. If you look closely at this image, you will see that there is a lot of white fuzzies, and this is picked up during the scan. The grain in the original photo is silver that reflects the light. When you make a scan, because you're bouncing light at that silver on the paper, you will have this reflected back to show the grain that's actually in that print that we can't see just by looking at it. So we can actually take this out using a process of first blurring the image and then resharpening it. So with this image open, we are going to go to Filter, select Blur, and add a Gaussian blur. I would like you to select on the big image. You got the little blow up here, but I would like you to select an area that is on her face where you can see an edge between her, the girl's face and the jacket. So just select in there, and you can use the hand to maneuver around. And we are going to apply this Gaussian blur with a radius of 1.5 pixels. If you take this down anything smaller, you're really not changing anything. You can still see all of those grain reflections. And if I pull it up too far, I'm just blurring that whole thing to pieces. So about a radius of 1.5 pixels, really close in there, is going to give you a nice softening of that image. And if we'll say okay to that, you can then see that we have minimized. We haven't completely deleted all of those fuzz marks, but we have minimized it greatly. We're going to go back in because now we have lost a lot of the details. They've gotten a little bit too soft. We want to resharpen those pieces. So I am going to use something called Smart Sharpen. I'll go into my filter, sharpen, Smart Sharper. This gives us a wide amount of correction that we can use. So we are going to do, of course, a custom preset. We are going to be removing the Gaussian blur. So make sure that you have Gaussian blur selected. We just put in the Gaussian. We want to take out the effects that are left from that. Next, we are going to change our amount to approximately 200%. Mine was really close when it came up. And we again want to duplicate that radius of 1.5 pixels and reduce our noise at approximately 20%. We're going to skip the shadows. Shadows are the dark areas that you can still see detail in. Shadows are not the blacks that are completely flat. We're good with where our shadows are right now, so we're going to leave those alone. We are going to go in and change our highlights and give a fade amount of 75%. Tonal width is going to be right in the middle at 50. That should be your default, is right in the middle, with a radius should be down at 1 pixel. The only thing that you need to really worry about is the fade amount, and say okay to accept that change. We have a few blemishes other than the major scratches that we should really fix at this point. We want to use the healing brush. The healing brush allows you to remove imperfections by picking up the surrounding pixels and making a fix. We are going to pick up and use our spot healing brush, which should be located in here, which looks like this. Now my tool panel may look different from the way yours is set up. I'm picking up my spot healing brush tool. It looks like a band-aid that has a little dotted line. To me, it always looks like a piece of luggage. It's got a handle on it. And we're going to use that spot healing brush to clean up some of the imperfections, the spots that are on this image. Notice right here on the man's jacket, there are two little white spots. And all we have to do with that spot healing brush is click on it. There are a couple of specifications that I want to have you change. We do need to make sure that you have proximity match selected, because that's going to use the pixels around the edge of the selection. And I think I neglected to do that at the very beginning, because that's the default that I tend to use all the time, is proximity match. And we also want to have approximately a 20 pixel brush with a hardness of 100%. That leaves you no fuzzy edges. It's going to be a very clean correction. I am going to zoom in on the girl's face. She has a little blemish on her chin. It's just a little white spot, but we want to make that blend better. So you see, I just click on that and it's gone. We also want to clean up some of the other white spots. She has a stray spot on her dress, and it looks like one over here, one here. Look through the image, and anything that you see that does not look 100% correct, do not clear out the button. It's very faint there, but we want the button. There is a small spot here on his lapel that you could take out. If you look up in the image, there's a couple of places up here where there are some spots in the background that you might want to clean up. Don't worry about the large areas here yet, because we will do something else. He has what looks like a big spot in the middle of his forehead. You might want to take that out as well. Don't make it too perfect. Don't clean out everything, or it's going to look really overworked. But take out any of the spots that you think look really out of place. Okay? So that cleans up, I think, a lot of damage on that image. We still have those larger areas to clean out, though. So if you take a look at, I'm going to go down to that bottom corner, we have this beautiful crease here that we really need to get rid of. It's pretty bad. It even reflects incorrectly when it was scanned. So we've got a little bit of a lighter area. This is a little bit darker. We're going to, however, take that out and make that look much better. What we want to pick up to do that is the clone stamp tool. Now you'll find your clone stamp somewhere over through here. I'm going to have to go looking for mine a little bit. Oh, here it is. It's right out in the open. I'm blind. There's a clone stamp tool. We want to select that. We do need a much larger brush, though. We're going to go up to about an 80 pixel brush, somewhere in through there. Somewhere between 80 and 90 pixels is going to be very good for covering this up. We want to have softer edges on this, though, so I'm changing my hardness to 25%. And I'm going to make sure that my align is selected. So I should have aligned right here. I'm going to check mark that. That's going to keep my cloning source relative to the cursor. So if I start and stop, it's going to be, okay, my clone here. Let me show you. There's the clone. Oh, I forgot. I have to set my area first. So I'm going to pick up a spot along here somewhere, far enough away that I'm not picking up anything, this tonal change in here. So I'm going to pick up over here. And I have to hold down my Alt key and click with my mouse to select the area that I'm cloning from. Then when I release, I get my brush back. And you can see in the center of the brush now that I am picking up that area up there. And as I click, you will also see that I am getting a crosshair that's showing where I'm picking up from. And you can see how this is filling in, okay? Now I've picked up far enough because that is more area here above and below. And if I go back down here now, you can see I am still picking up from that same area. It is a certain distance away. Now I'm going to do something a little bit more than what the book has shown, because if you notice, I have this dark crease here and I really don't like that. So I'm going to actually go in and I'm going to stroke through that and pull that dark line out because it doesn't look natural. It was created in the scan by the crease, and I want to hide that. So I'm taking that out as well. I'm going to next go over to the other corner, or I'm going to set my cursor so that I'm picking up an area on the woman's dress. The reason I'm doing that is because right now, if I try to clone and fill, and I'm clicking here, although you can't see it because I still have a line selected up here, I'm actually picking up a spot over here, which doesn't exist. It's off the picture. So I need to select a new area from somewhere over here, and I'm going to fill in her dress. And I may pick more than one area because what can happen on this is that you can actually come up with what's called a train track effect, because you'll clone over an exact copy of something. And you can see now the relative. I am picking up an area that is kind of up and to the left of where my brush is. But as long as I don't click and drag, I will never affect that. The next thing we're going to do is work on cloning out the area up here. And I will again pick up an area to clone. But before I do that, I want to set my brush picker to a 30 pixel brush with approximately 50% hardness. And I'm going to clone the edge of his jacket because the jacket has a slope to it and we want that slope to be brought in. So I'm going to set my clone area from there and I'm going to drag down and apply that clone. Now, it might be a little rough, so I might want to pick up from below and come back in, but you can see how that cursor actually helps you to place an item in. Now that I've set that, I can go back in here, but instead of cloning this area in, I'm going to use my lasso tool, and I am going to, let me zoom in a little bit so I can see this a little better. I'm going to select this area with the damage, and I'm going to go to my edit, select fill, and use something called content aware. Check the drop down menu and make sure that you're picking up content aware and say okay. And the program will analyze the surrounding pixels and fill that area. We're going to do the same thing again with his jacket. Select the area, edit, fill with content aware, and OK. And we now have a believable fill that the program has created for us.